Waiting for motivation dims more dreams than laziness itself. That quiet voice telling you to start tomorrow is the thief of possibility. How does discipline quietly shape success while laziness steals it away? It's not about giant leaps or sudden inspiration. Discipline is stitched into the small, steady choices you make, like the dim glow of a lone candle at midnight. Barely noticed, yet holding back the darkness. I'm holding one piece aside until the close, a shift in how you see effort itself. That will change everything about why some dreams fade before they truly begin. The whispering shadow of delay. What happens when you tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow" one too many times? That phrase hides like a quiet passenger riding shotgun. It doesn't shout or shove. It just sits there, steering you off course bit by bit. Laziness isn't the person sprawled on the couch binge-watching a show. It's the smooth talker whispering excuses. "I need more time. I'll feel ready soon," or "just one more break." Each sounds harmless, like a soft breeze. But it slowly erodes the backbone of discipline, the kind that builds success. Think about your morning commute. You don't notice the little changes you make. Taking a different route, stopping for coffee, hesitating at every stoplight. Each choice adds minutes. Those minutes pile up into hours lost. Discipline fights for every inch of ground. Laziness nudges you sideways, slowing your progress. Without action, potential is like a paycheck in an unopened envelope. I once worked with someone full of ideas, but every project began with a pause, a hesitation, a maybe next week. Meanwhile, the people who started first, even on bad days, pulled ahead. Not because they had more motivation or talent, but because they showed up consistently. That quiet decision to act, whether you feel like it or not, became their secret weapon. So why do we let delay sneak in, disguised as harmless waiting? What if success isn't about flashy motivation or sudden inspiration? What if it's something quieter? A choice made again and again beneath the noise, like a steady pulse you hardly notice. If laziness is the shadow creeping across your workday, what lights the path that keeps you moving? That's what we'll explore next with the invisible architect of achievement. The invisible architect of achievement. Success doesn't come from waiting for a flash of inspiration or a lucky break. It's what you do when no one's watching. Imagine building a house. The first brick isn't exciting. Each brick goes down slowly, often out of sight. But one day, the house stands tall, one brick at a time. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even when it's the last thing you want, you add another brick to your foundation. That steady work builds trust in yourself. I once noticed a guy in my apartment complex training for a marathon. Rain or shine, every morning he'd lace up and run the same route, mile after mile. No crowds, no medals waiting at the finish, just quiet, steady steps. That habit turned his goal into reality. Here's what happens when you choose discipline day after day. You start to see yourself as someone who doesn't quit. Confidence grows in the small moments, away from the spotlight. It's less about giant leaps and more about showing up again and again. Success is the house you're building, not a sudden lightning strike. Look at any morning commute. The car that arrives on time isn't the one speeding wildly. It's the one following the same route, keeping the same rhythm, trusting the process. You build something strong by repeating what works, not chasing the next thrill. But here's the hard part. How do you keep building when you can't see the progress? When the bricks don't seem to stack fast enough? That's the question we'll tackle next in the quiet argument against waiting. The quiet argument against waiting. I once watched a carpenter building a porch in the middle of a chilly spring morning. He wasn't rushing or trying to impress anyone, just hammering one board after another, steady and quiet, even when the wind drifted stubbornly through the half-finished frame. No grand gestures, no sudden bursts of energy, just hands, reliable, patient, disciplined. That carpenter wasn't waiting for inspiration to strike or motivation to flood in like some cinematic moment. He knew those flashes were rare, unpredictable visitors. Instead, he worked with what he had, the steady rhythm, a commitment to laying one plank at a time. No one building a house ever said, "I'll put up the walls once I feel like it." It's those first, slow steps that stack up to a shelter. What caught me was the quiet battle the carpenter fought each morning. Before the first nail, there was a choice. Pack up and put off the work, or lean into the discomfort and keep going. That back and forth, internal and sharp, is where discipline takes the wheel. It doesn't cheerlead. It doesn't wait for the sunrise or some electric jolt of enthusiasm. It just says, "You're here. Start." Think about your mornings. Maybe your bed feels too warm, your phone buzzes with distractions, the couch calls you back. Discipline is the nudge pushing through that gravity, not some grand vision pushing you forward. It's the backbone under the surface, the power that builds quietly, beneath the noise of wanting and waiting. Waiting for motivation? It's like expecting your paycheck before showing up to work. Unreliable. But here's the catch. If discipline is the quiet architect, what happens when the foundation cracks? There's one piece I'm holding back. The secret to shoring up that unseen structure. We'll get there soon. But this question will keep you turning it over. Can steady progress outlast the storms brewing beneath the surface? The roots beneath the storm. Waiting for motivation is like expecting your car's engine to start smoothly without a checkup. It's a gamble you lose more times than you win. Discipline, though, is sitting down with the manual, turning the wrench, and tuning up the engine regularly. It's the steady care that keeps you moving, no matter how reluctant the morning feels. There's this coworker who clocks in early every single day, even when the city's buried under a surprise snowstorm. She doesn't wait for the urge to arrive. She sets her alarm, brushes off the sleep, and powers through because she built a habit. Over months, that habit welded something stronger, a kind of reliability you notice without words. Discipline shows up as respect for yourself. It's choosing to fuel your progress, even when the temptation to idle is louder. Like a mechanic working quietly in the garage, tuning unseen parts, discipline doesn't shout. It fine-tunes your inner workings, tightening bolts of grit and resolve. You might miss the small adjustments at first, but after enough time, your engine hums steady and strong. This slow, steady maintenance shapes what's ahead. It isn't about sudden bursts or sparks of motivation. It's about showing up to the shop day after day, making small repairs and improvements. But what happens if the engine stalls? When discipline breaks down despite all the effort? That's the challenge just beyond reach. The one that leads to the next step. How do you restart when everything you've built sputters and stalls? The Candle Rekindled. Now, think about the farmer waking up before dawn every day during planting season. The land looks empty, dry, like nothing's happening. But those early mornings, dropping seed after seed into the soil, set the stage for the harvest months away. You don't get the reward by staring at the barren field. You get it by working the ground, even when there's no sign of progress yet. That's action fueling the engine, You can't wait for motivation to show up first. It doesn't come knocking with a grand announcement. Action comes first, and motivation tags along like a passenger on a road trip. Once you start moving, even just a little bit, your brain flips a switch. Suddenly, discipline stops being a distant ideal and becomes part of who you are. You begin trusting the way you see yourself, because your choices prove it. I once saw a friend struggling to stick with exercise. She'd tell herself she was lazy, stuck in that loop where identity controls habit. Then one day, she committed to walking for 5 minutes after work. Just 5. That tiny step rewired her story. Soon, 5 became 10, then 30. She stopped waiting for the perfect mood to strike. Instead, she seeded her routine with action, and the rest grew around it. Your identity isn't a fixed label. It's the product of what you do. So, if you keep telling yourself you're lazy, laziness wins. If you choose to act, even if it feels forced at first, that choice changes the narrative. You don't have to overhaul your life in a day. Small, consistent moves plant the roots for something bigger. But here's the tricky part. How do you start when the field feels too vast and the first step feels meaningless? That question hangs in the air, waiting for the closing reflection. When you look closely, discipline isn't a loud shout. It's a soft, steady pulse beneath the surface of every success. Laziness, on the other hand, sneaks in like a slow fade, stealing moments meant for growth. Remember, waiting for motivation dims more dreams than laziness itself, because motivation is fleeting, but discipline is a choice you make again and again. That choice kindles your inner flame, turning flickers of hope into a steady blaze. It quietly shapes a life where your dreams don't just survive, but burn bright. If this strikes a chord, the full conversation comes from Jim Rohn's motivational speech titled, "Kill Your Laziness." You can find the full episode by searching that title.